Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So here we go again. I've received a lot of emails about this. Here in the UK, Britain's Got Talent is on TV. I don't watch it personally, but I have been linked to a particular performance where people are saying that they can hear auto-tune. So I've been asked to take a look at it, and I have pointed this out on talent shows before, not just in the UK, but all around the world, of using pitch correction and auto-tune and that kind of stuff. We are going to be listening to the isolated vocals, so let's have a listen.
There's no time for us.
Long-time viewers of my channel will already know. I mean, first of all, from the processing sound, but the fact that we have just perfectly calibrated ourselves to A440 standard pitch equal temperament. But let's listen on.
There's no place for us.
Oh my God, I love it.
What is this thing that fills our dreams?
And there, the classic auto-tune flip. So the people that said, oh, I think I can hear auto-tune, absolutely. And this is really heavy. This leaves me with a question, because I'm thinking, I can't imagine anyone who has any kind of experience in production has done it this badly to then be shown on national TV. So have a listen to this again, slow motion.
Our dream.
A dream. That snap that happened here. We listened to it in slow motion because the auto-tune snapped it to a D sharp 4 when it should have been dream, dream, dream. It should be a nice smooth ascension, but dream, it snapped it halfway through. So have a listen again. You might not have spotted it, but have a listen. And then it, snaps it perfectly on the E4. I mean, when you listen to it in slow motion, yes, it does sound even more ridiculous. But now the question is, was the auto-tune being used by the singer during their audition? Is it something that he's taken with him? Or is it a producer who has done this for then the national broadcast of the show? And if it is a producer, I can't believe that Simon Cowell doesn't have a team of people that are really good at what they do, and that they could even do it this badly.
Yet slips away from us.
And there are tiny bits everywhere that just sound dodgy.
Who wants
Like that.
to live forever? Who wants to live forever?
And look at that G4. Yeah, you couldn't get more on top of that line because it's being calibrated to these lines, and the human voice is not calibrated to these lines. So that's why when we compare it with Freddie Mercury's voice, as we will do in a second, you'll see what a real voice looks like. And the irony of somebody singing or trying to emulate Freddie Mercury and calibrating their voice to A440, which is something that Freddie never did. He never used auto-tune. He never used pitch correction. It's why his voice was so expressive. So the other question that I have, if this were indeed applied during the audition, how the judges wouldn't spot it. That you'd surely be able to, I mean, maybe they can't hear auto-tune, but surely you'd be able to hear this and go, well, this is auto-tuned. It's calibrated to A440. You can hear it instantly within the first few notes. So, not that we need to listen. I mean, it's already conclusive, but I'll let it play on just for a little bit longer. So those are the presenters that are obviously applauding this audition.
No chance.
Hey, and there we go. We had another little snap there. Actually, it was a split second.
No chance.
Yeah, it kind of almost snapped it to the A sharp 3, but that one we kind of got away with.
For us. It's all decided for us.
Something weird happened there as well. But what I find quite entertaining is this kind of look from Simon Cowell. Is this a glimpse into the future where we're going to be judging voices on auto-tune? That we're going to be listening to a voice that isn't actually the real voice, and judges are going to say, oh wow, that's amazing. But then another auditionee will come on and they'll sound just as amazing because they'll be using the same. Actually, the next person might say, oh, excuse me, mate, can I use what you just used for your voice? And they'll say, oh yeah, go for it. And then everyone can borrow this bit of equipment that now means they're not missing any notes. The only downside is their voice might get snapped to wrong notes.
It's all decided for us.
It actually sounded like the auto-tune there wasn't really sure where the note was.
This world's his own.
There was a split second. Have a listen.
This.
This. So that was up to the C4, and that was an auto-tune snap. It wasn't the actual vocal doing that, because that's not how Freddie sang. The original vocal and this particular singer is keeping it true to the original melody.
World's his only one. Sweet moments set aside for us.
So anyway, yeah, you can hear it really working all over the place. Freddie Mercury was one of the most accurate singers that you're ever going to hear. So in a controlled condition, in a studio, he will be hitting notes really close to these lines, if not occasionally being over the top of these lines. So I'm going to let the original release play through.
There's no chance for us.
And you can see how, I mean, technically, Freddie did start a little bit flat there. And here the audition actually was right over the top of that line. So, I mean, straight off the bat, Freddie's been beaten with pitch accuracy.
All decided for us.
And I would say that there, Freddie in the studio matched the pitch. He was just as accurate. And then here we came down. We stopped off perfectly at the C4. The important thing to understand is that this voice is using auto-tune to get these results, and this was Freddie's natural voice. He's not using auto-tune here. He might have sang it multiple times to get it as close as possible in the studio, but he's not using the technology because this is a live audition, allegedly. I mean, I say that. Technically it is live, but the vocal has been auto-tuned. So it's always going to be as accurate as it can be because it's been moved to the right pitch. So let's listen on. Yeah, actually here, when you look at it, we were significantly flat here and not as significantly flat. So again, I'd say maybe Freddie lost out there.
This world has only one.
And again, when we're looking at Freddie Mercury's voice over the E4, over the D4, here the G4 pretty much spot on, a little bit flat, but here we had a bit of an ascension during the audition. So I'd say, again, it's pretty much even Stevens, but this is the natural voice.
Sweet moment set aside for us.
And listen to the difference there between the B3 being noticeably flat. Obviously not when you're listening to it in context, but it's the disappointment that you get from Freddie's voice, because that's just the expression. That's where that note is. Here, the B3's been absolutely, obviously, auto-tune stuck over the line, and A3 on top of the line as well. Actually, the A3 was slightly flat from Freddie, so it just reminds me of the video that I made about Whitney Houston and singers that are taking on her songs, but they are using auto-tune on their vocals, and they are outperforming Whitney Houston in a live environment because auto-tunes used live, they're more accurate than Whitney Houston herself in the studio. That's how ridiculous it is.
Want to live forever.
And again, here, look at how we drift sharp with Freddie Mercury's voice. Here, over the line, then flat. And this is in the studio, by the way. Here, a little bit sharp, but we come down to the line. Here... yeah, I was just waiting to see that a little bit more clearly. I mean, that is pretty much over the line. I mean, of course, it's going to be over the line on the right-hand side. And look at the variation here, how all of these tiny changes in pitch is what makes it Freddie Mercury's voice. This is how his vocal cords worked. This is what they did. Went a little bit sharp and then came down to the E4. Here, it's just bang on the E4. We had a kind of wider wobble of vibrato there, unless that might have been auto-tuned trying to take it down to the D sharp 4, but it's always just planted over this line. And again, look up here. We've got sharp, sharp, coming down, onto the line, and then we go flat. So we've got all this variation in pitch. And when we look over to the auto-tune version, G4, all is actually plotted it the octave below as well. And it's plotted the octave below over the G3 perfectly and over the G4 perfectly. It's a G4 that we're listening to. So you can see how perfectly over the line it is all the time. You don't get any variation. You don't get any expression. You don't get any personality in the voice. And I know people are going to be saying, why don't you compare the live audition vocal to Freddie Mercury's live vocal? Because that's a closer representation. That's like for like. So we're going to do that. And this is what happens live with particular songs. In this case, they've changed the key. So we're a tone lower than the official release. And we can still compare vocal accuracy, but because we can look at A440, because A440 will still give you these lines 100 cents apart.
No chance for us.
So, straight off the bat, we've got A3 is a tone lower, but we are significantly flat here, and this is now live. And on the right-hand side, the apparent live audition is over the B3. And then here, the A sharp 3, pretty close. And actually on the audition, it did kind of waver, went a little bit flat.
It's all decided for us.
And again, like I said, Freddie really accurate there on the left-hand side.
This world is only one sweet.
And look at that. When I said about Freddie Mercury's voice being one of the most accurate you're going to hear, this is live, that he is, pretty much bang over that F4 and the D4 as well. You could argue a little bit sharp, but as close as makes no difference.
Sweet moment.
And that kind of thing there. Man, not really getting up to the A3, just a little bit of expression in there. Of course, here, the equivalent B3 with the change of keys kind of got just attracted to that line and calibrated to it. But again, I mean, here you could say a little bit flat and then ascended on the left-hand side, perfectly over.
Set aside for us.
You could hear there the G3 was noticeably flat.
Want to live forever.
Yeah, and here you can see slightly flat here and maintained it flat here. And of course on the right hand side is going to be always over the line.
Who dares to love forever?
But I mean, look how close this is. Again, it's important not to get confused about what's happening here. Freddie Mercury is doing this himself. He's not being tuned to A440, these lines. On the right hand side, the voice is being moved there. So this is the genuine singing ability, whereas this is calibration. So yeah, we're looking at two totally different things here. But this is massively impressive.
Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Who wants to live forever?
And you really do get an appreciation of how unique Freddie Mercury's voice was, because looking at this, starting sharp, coming down and maintaining it flat, going slightly sharp here, coming up, being sharp, coming down, we're getting variations of pitch in one note. Unlike here, when you just get no variation in a note. Straight, straight, straight. So this is why Freddie's voice was so unique, because of the vibrato as well, that I've always said was sporadic and almost, you know, random and natural, and not something that he's intentionally trying to control. He's just letting it happen. So you get all of this movement going on with the vibrato as well. It just makes it sound so unique. And yeah, you can see what a live vocal actually looks like on the left hand side. When I say live vocal, I know that this is referred to as a live vocal because it happened at the audition, but the vocal that happened at the audition we're not hearing. We're hearing the product of auto-tune.
Oh, yeah. When the sky.
Yeah, and again, this is something that happens with live vocals that I'm hoping will just be normalized again, that when somebody is slightly flat of a note, it's because they're actually doing it. Especially when we're now looking at a competition, this is where it gets a little bit cloudy as to what's fair and what isn't fair. Should a singer be allowed to use something that is going to make them more accurate than the original singer that they're trying to get to, that nobody's going to get to? Because first of all, you're limiting yourself by using auto-tune, but then if you did away with auto-tune, how close would you really be to sounding like Freddie Mercury? If it is some, I'm not sure whether it's a tribute act or anything, but how close would you be able to get naturally? Because something that, like Mark Martel, for example, he's a guy that gets really close to Freddie Mercury's sound, and he's not a tribute act or tribute artist. He's an artist in his own right, but he just happens to be able to control his voice to sound very similar to Freddie Mercury. And I'll tell you one thing that Mark doesn't do is use auto-tune. And because he doesn't use that, it gives him the freedom to start doing the same things that Freddie Mercury could do with his voice and did with his voice, just having those variations in pitch. You can only get that when you're not relying on technology to do it for you, because if you're relying on technology, the original artist didn't do that, so you're never going to get really close to that singer's voice. And so much of the voice is expression and locking into that same sound and the same feelings that are evoked when listening to that particular voice. So yeah, the only thing that you can hear in this particular audition is just auto-tune, and it unfortunately is really clear, so I'm not sure when it's been applied. But anyway, thank you guys for all of the messages asking me to look at this particular audition. And I think because it is this year's Britain's Got Talent, I don't know whether there's been another performance by this singer, but maybe if anyone spots it, you could link me to it, because I'll then be able to see whether that is auto-tuned as well, and whether it's the actual audition at the time that has auto-tune applied to it, and it might be something that this singer uses, or whether it was something that was applied after the fact and the singer does sing fully live, but then the show is auto-tuning his voice. So I guess that's the only unanswered question, but the question in the email about it being auto-tuned or not, absolutely auto-tuned, beyond any doubt. But as always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Keep those suggestions and requests for future videos coming. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!